So, as my listeners know, because I briefed them before this, you are an actress, a model, and a singer. So, I want to talk a little bit about all of these things. But first, I really want to talk about a song you recently produced and sang, Dream a Little Dream of Me. What inspired this project for you, and what are you hoping that listeners take away from it?
I love singing. So what inspired me was just I was outside and I was just looking around and I was just like, it's such a beautiful summer day, all that kind of stuff. And I wanted to just have a song that would go kind of with that atmosphere. And so when I was rehearsing with my partner, we were working on stuff and this song was just like we kind of did it really fast and we did like a two takes or something because the way it was just like, oh, this is just a little love letter to, that kind of like feeling when you're young and you're just like out and about and you have all these dreams. And it's just kind of like a little sweet song. It wasn't anything huge, but I just wanted people to have fun with it. And I hope they liked it, you know?
Yeah, the thing that I have like taken away as an audience member from looking at your work across the board is all of the different like vibes that you produce. I know that sounds crazy, but it's like when I look at the photos of you from modeling, when I look at your work as an actress, and when I look at your work as a singer, they're all kind of different tones and different
Oh, yeah.
vibes. Like it's really interesting, and I think it's great because that range is so important to have in the industry, and it makes you, such a versatile performer, right? To
Well,
be able to
thank you.
pull anything off, right?
I think that because my background is kind of diverse, I studied opera, I did theater, and then it was like, so there's so many things I'm pulling from. And I'm a huge old movie fan. So I'm just like constantly watching a black and white movie or a Technicolor musical or whatever you want, but it has to be like pre like 1965. And so I think all these things kind of get into your spirit, and then after a while you sort of make everything your own. And so it's definitely like this very eclectic thing, and everything sort of that's come out of it there's themes, but it's very flexible. So I just kind of like am drawn to different projects like the Western or, a vintage mid-century modern photo shoot, like, but they're all just, I guess, deep in my imagination. So that's kind of where I'm just springing from. So that's kind of why I think everything, I like to think of creativity as a way to express honestly like your dreams and your thoughts that are just sort of reality can be one way, but in the creative world you can kind of do what you want. So that's something that I think I like to bring to each project.
Yeah, and on the topic of switching projects and kind of being like an old soul, you were recently featured in a magazine, XIOX Mag, and the photos were like a 60s like kind of vibe. What inspired that shoot? They turned out so good. Where were you at for that? It looked like it was Palm Springs.
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
So it actually is a really cool story. So I was I was just getting some headshots done very normally. And then we just all hit it off really well. And so we kept in touch with the photographer and the makeup artist. And we were waiting for the editorial that would really work for my look. And so there was this opportunity with a shoot out in Palm Springs. And I was just like, yes, that sounds like the coolest thing ever. So we just ended up doing a full, it was like full day at this really cool location, pool, just that whole mid-century modern vibe. And I was just like, this is so fun. And, they were the photographer, the makeup artist, the wardrobe, everybody on that set was so amazing. So it turned into a really, really cool project. And it's definitely one of my favorite photo shoots I've ever done, for sure.
So you're, as I said, an actress, a singer, and a model. Which do you have the most fun with? Acting, singing, or modeling, and why?
That's a good question. And it depends kind of on the format. So I love doing live theater. And so if I'm doing a play, I think that sometimes can be my favorite thing ever. Then I discovered opera and music, and I was like, wait, I could do a play, but I can also put music in it. Okay, it's like a musical thing, but it's very, very deep. Oh, wow, this is my favorite thing. And then, so everything's sort of like while I'm doing it, it's always my favorite thing. And then when I'm not doing it, I think I miss singing the most, I would say, to a live audience, which is my favorite because you could actually get that storytelling communication happening and that energy. And that's definitely my favorite.
So it sounds like you just love being on a stage, because if it's in a play or if it's
Do.
singing to a live audience, either way, it's like live action.
I
Um,
do, yeah.
but you have recently been recognized for your acting work, and I want to talk about that because, like, huge congrats are in order.
Yeah.
You were nominated for Best Actress in a feature film 2020 by Wild Bunch Film Festival for the pilot of your show, Prospectors of the Forgiven. Can you kind of tell the audience, like, a brief summary of what this is about and your character?
So this is a Western, and it takes place right after the Civil War, and it's in this mining town that's just has no laws, no rules. And I play the part of this dance hall, girl that turns out to be more of a femme fatale figure who sort of scouts out the men that have the most money and then tries to get them to come there, get seduced, and then attacks them and robs them. However, obviously, uh, that well, I'm not going to give away the plot, but there's a lot of ups and downs in that character arc. So, but it's a lot of fun because I got to be um, on a ranch where we filmed it, and I love animals, so we got to just when we're not on camera, it was like, okay, take a break, okay, I can go play with this horse, can I go like look at this goat, so it was really fun. And then we just were at this ranch for months, and it was so awesome because we got to know everybody on the set. Everybody just was like really great people, and the story sort of continually unfolded because when you're doing film, you don't shoot from like beginning to end. And so at first I had one idea of where my character was going to go. And then as we were sort of like doing these different scenes, I started pulling these other ideas, and I started seeing this total different sort of character arc. And in the end, I had just a lot of fun creating this. She's a villain, but she's also really cool. So, it was so much fun.
Actually, I think that's something that not a lot of people know, which is that with film, they don't usually shoot chronologically. Some of the best
Right.
known,
Yeah.
yeah, some of the best known films or even shows, the climax was shot first
Yeah.
to get it out of the way.
It's amazing because you don't so as an actor, you have to kind of really keep your brain has to really put everything into these boxes and try to string it along, and you're just like, wait, is this the beginning, is this the end, here, and you have to know your character so well that you can kind of pop into their life at any given moment. And I think in theater it's a little different. You come from the beginning obviously to the end every night, no interruptions. So it's sort of in that regard they're very opposite. However, they both deal with this deep characterization, and so I could easily, I could switch from both. But I think that sort of the character work comes out in a slightly different way in film, and you start discovering things because you do shoot in such an odd way, and so you're like, wait, that was actually pretty interesting. Now I know my character so well, but I'm shooting the first scene. How funny. So it's a really interesting process.
Yeah, and the processes, they are different, and it seems like you have, such a diverse background, and you're able to switch on and off from one to the next, from theater to film to singing to modeling. What advice do you have for people who are young in the industry, might be in acting or might be in singing, and want to kind of get that diverse background and go into singing or go into acting?
Absolutely. And it's a great question. And I think the first thing I would say is relax because everybody comes at everything with such, oh my gosh, I have to succeed. I have to get this done by this deadline. I have to do this. I have to be industry appropriate. I have to get this brand. And I think what ends up happening is that can kind of stifle your creativity, and it can also stifle your learning curve. And when I moved first to New York to do theater, I was doing a program and I didn't anticipate going to Europe within a year after the right after the program. And I just kind of let that happen and I saw where those projects took me, and then that took me somewhere else. So I think there's this, you have to have a little bit of flexibility. There has to be a plan, that's obvious, but there has to be the relaxation and the flexibility to let stuff happen and see where it goes. And I think that if you do want to do singing, definitely take some lessons. I know a lot of people will just sort of show up and be like, I don't know anything. And that's cool, but it will help if you have a few lessons under your belt. And, and the same thing with acting. If you have a few lessons under your belt, you're going to just have a better product. You're going to have a better time. So definitely invest in the early years in a really good program, and then really just enjoy it because it's a journey and there's no real end goal that is going to be a perfect check the box. You're just going to have a huge experience and then you're going to have a lot of amazing memories. So it's really fun.
Yeah. So, speaking of memories, I like to kind of close out the interview with a fun question. And you talked about going to Europe, and we talked about you being on stages, you being at shoots in Palm Springs. My question for you is, of all the places in and out of the US that you've gone to do work, what has been your favorite place to travel and why?
I basically feel like there's two that are kind of tied. And the first one, my favorite, is just classic New York City. The first time I got there and was able to book a show where I was on stage and I was doing an off Broadway show, and I was in, this place that I'd heard so much about, and it's so sort of mythic with for theater. And I was doing this show and I'm like, wow, this is so cool. Then the second one that's also a tie is when I did a show in Amsterdam, because it also was this iconic place that you have so many ideas about what the history, the life, just everything. And then when you get there on both places, it unfolds and it's this totally new story, but you're a part of this giant history. And I think that is what made those two experiences so important and so fun, because you're a part of something really big and yet it feels like it's happening for the first time just to you.
Yeah, so I'm not in theater, so I can't relate to that specifically, but I love to travel. And I remember the first time I went to New York, and even being somebody who loves the entertainment industry, loves film and TV, you do feel like you're like the main character of a show. And
Yeah,
it's cool because it's an environment where everybody feels that way, and not in a bad way, but in a way that it's
no.
like it is kind of like a magical place. It does feel like larger than life. Maybe
Yeah,
it'd be different if we lived there. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have that idea of California and LA, and we live here, so we don't,
yeah,
necessarily think that. But I totally understand that. And for theater, New York is the place to be. So I'm sure that getting to kind of live out your dream in the best place to do it was like such an experience. I mean, for me, New York is one of my favorite places I've ever been,
oh,
and
definitely.
I didn't even get a job there. So
It's just a lot
um
of fun, there's a lot of possibilities. And I think LA is also a lot of fun. And it also is part of that sort of, amazing story. And that's why I kind of was like, I have to go there too. And I have to try to do film too, because it's like the possibilities are sort of endless. in the arts, and you can just sort of keep on, it's sort of a buffet of trying all these different things, and then one of them will stick. Or maybe you just feel like staying in one spot and then you feel like moving on, so it's just really fun. And I think that New York was sort of the beginning of the arc when I went to my acting program, and now there's all these other places that are also in the story, and it's just so cool.
Yeah, you came here to, follow your dreams, and then you got stuck here because the weather is so nice. Like,
It's
that's the
so
thing about
nice.
New York, you can go there for theater, but those winters are
Oh, those
rough.
winters are tough.
Yeah, they are rough. Um,
Yeah.
so I like to leave my audience on a high note. I ask my guests to bring, something positive to share that's going on in the world. Do you have anything positive to share?
Well, I have so many positive things to share that, well, my sister having twins is really exciting. So I know that is probably the biggest thing that's happening that's, universally, we can all say, oh, that's pretty darn positive. And she got married last year. And so they did not expect exactly the timing, but they really wanted to have kids. And so they were like, all right, well, let's see what happens. And then they got twins. So they'll be here at the end of January. And then I have just some other great news in that it's been a tough year for everybody, but I know that my family's been having we've been just having so many more, deep conversations and things like that. And I think that is one of the things that is a positive that everyone can try to take out of this very difficult, just horrendously difficult year. So hopefully 2021 will be better. And we will just look forward to more traveling, more great conversations, and twins.
I think that is a really interesting point to bring up. We're not doing anything except for getting to know each other in this time with your
Yeah.
family, with your friends, with strangers. Um, that is something now that you bring it up, it's something that I've noticed too. And I think a lot of people will be able to relate to that maybe they feel like they know their friends and their families on a deeper level given all of this. And hopefully, in a positive way. I know we just came out of a crazy time with the election, but um, you know, I think at the end of the day, really, once things go back to normal, we'll be counting our blessings with the people that we have in our life for sure.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I think that all of these things, you can either take them as like, okay, I'm just really mad. And you can be mad, but at the same time, you can also channel it into, okay, now we're going to make this even better because I value every single person in my life so much. And we're just going to make sure that we have a lot more family time, a lot more enjoyment of traveling, a lot more of just, giving thanks for a lot of things that perhaps we're taken a little bit for granted. So we'll
Yeah,
see. We'll see what happens.
yeah, well said. Tell everybody where they can find you, where they can listen to your music, watch your pilot.
Well, they can go to my website, Athena-Bergen .com. They could also find me on Instagram. They can find me on IMDb, and there on that you can link to almost all of my projects. And other than that, I think you could also just Google me. So
I'll put all of your information in the show notes for everybody to be able to find you, follow you,
awesome.
listen to you, all of the above. And you've been so much fun to have on. Thank you so much for spending your night with me.
Oh, thank you. This was awesome.